In chapter 271, friends come from afar. Li Tiangang watches the young man walk away, his emotions mixed with nervousness, anticipation, and a hint of sadness. This young man, who had once left the Li family and the Divine General Mansion after a bitter argument, is now being invited back by the ancestor himself. Li Tiangang wonders if he was wrong in his beliefs, having lived by the law of all things. Li Hao, on the other hand, is deeply surprised by the ancestor's actions, feeling both gratitude and regret. Though he acknowledges the kindness, he insists that the family's legacy should not be compromised because of his own actions. He has long severed ties with the Li family bloodline, and even as a powerful individual, he believes he can no longer command respect. The weight of this decision forces him to reflect on his past choices, realizing that some things once lost cannot truly be regained. Li Hao stood firm, his mind resolute, as he rejected the Li family's attempts to reconcile, unable to bear the weight of their expectations any longer. His words cut through the air. "My mind is made up, and I cannot bear the burden of the Divine General Mansion." With a deep bow, he expressed his gratitude, but there was no mistaking the finality in his voice. The reaction from he, Jianlan, and the others was immediate hope faded from their eyes, leaving behind a hollow emptiness. Kneeling before him, Li Tiangang was struck silent, his face twitching with disbelief. In the past, he had always insisted that the young man follow the family's rules, but now Li Hao had used the very family law to sever their ties, taking the bold step to cut himself off completely. Li Tianyuan, caught off guard, stammered, offering a final plea. "Even if not as a true dragon, the Li family owes you." But in his mind, Li Hao could only see the echoes of a past tied to another life, the memories of the true dragon, a legacy he could no longer carry. And so, with the family's plea lingering in the air, Li Hao turned his back, ready to continue his journey, seeking his own path. Li Hao stood before the Li family elder, his voice filled with sincerity, yet laced with quiet determination. "Ancestor, your generosity is overwhelming, but this is too much for me. Soul condensation is an immense sacrifice, one I do not need. The Li family owes me nothing. We are even." Despite the elder's offer to assist him in breaking through the bottleneck of his cultivation using the heroic spirit's souls, Li Hao refused. He believed that by gathering soul condensation manuals, he could reach his goal on his own, without burdening others. These heroic spirits, heroes from a time long past, had fought and died to protect their people. Li Hao felt it would be dishonorable to exploit their power for his personal gain. Li Tianyuan, the elder, fell silent, his thoughts heavy. Though Li Hao's rejection was rooted in principle, the elder wished to gather the spirit's power to both repay Li Hao and fortify his future bonds with the family. But Li Hao, a martial artist of profound strength and ideals, remained unmoved. The offer of power, no matter how valuable, seemed to him insignificant in the face of such a sacrifice. "My child," Li Tianyuan began, but Li Hao swiftly interjected with a gentle smile. "Ancestor, we may not be related by blood, but if you wish, we can be friends." In that moment, Li Hao's words carried not just a refusal, but a redefinition of what true relationships, loyalty, and righteousness meant to him. Li Hao, once disconnected from his family, now stands at a crossroads. After saving Qingzhou City from a devastating demon tide, his journey is filled with complex inner struggles and dangerous external forces. His former friend and mentor, the legendary thief Feng Boping, is captured by the hypocritical Buddhist sect of Mount Wuliang. Fueled by loyalty and rage, Li Hao sets out to confront this deceitful sect, uncovering the hidden conspiracies of Demon Luo and Mount Wuliang's desire to destabilize the Dayu Divine Dynasty. As Li Hao delves deeper into the lies and traps, his quest forces him to grapple with the very essence of justice, friendship, and righteousness. The fierce battles and emotional turmoil challenge his ideals and force him to question everything he once believed, including his own identity. Will he walk the path of vengeance or emerge with a newfound sense of purpose? In a family where no one had ever been in the spotlight, a remarkable individual emerged a figure so extraordinary that even his own origins seemed trivial. He soared above the rest, almost like a dragon breaking free from the depths of the mundane, no longer tethered to the world of his family. Yet, despite his rise, no one dared call his family's Divine General Mansion a humble place. His world was simply too vast to be contained by anything so small. As he strolled into the courtyard, he posed a question that caught everyone off guard. Where is the noblewoman who poisoned me? His words sent a ripple through the air. Li Xuanli, recently chosen as the True Dragon Patriarch, had yet to undergo his formal ceremony, but it was clear his responsibilities had already begun. In that moment of hesitation, a subtle nudge from his wife reminded him of the situation's gravity. With a composed expression, he responded, "She's in another courtyard. Would you like to see her? With your status? It's only right that you decide how to handle this." Despite his outward calm, Li Xuanli's mind raced with thoughts about how Li Hao's actions might affect the reputation of the Divine General Mansion. Knowing the implications of what was to come, he quelled the storm of stray thoughts in mere moments, his mind razor sharp behind a calm gaze. As a duke, his authority was enough to silence any scandal with precision, even if it meant extinguishing the life that once poisoned him. In this world, consequences bowed to power, and the Liu family, once fierce, would likely swallow their pride, offering tribute cloaked as apology. The fate of their house meant more than vengeance. With practiced ease, he turned away, his nod subtle yet final. Those who witnessed it felt the tension coil tighter. Li Hao, once a castaway, now walked the line between justice and retaliation, the weight of betrayal burning behind his calm. And for one watching silently, memories of a brother's sacrifice stirred a storm that had yet to break. Li Hao, though burdened with sorrow, no longer had any reason to stop his path. In the depths of his heart, the animosity toward Lu Yuerong lingered. Yet, despite this hatred, he couldn't ignore the bond of brotherhood that had once driven him to protect. Meanwhile, Ji Qingqing, overwhelmed with grief, quickly rose and followed him, struggling to accept that the child had truly walked away with such determination. At Shuihua Courtyard, Li Xuanli opened the gate for Li Hao, casting a heavy glance toward his former nephew. He murmured quietly, "She's inside. Since the investigation concluded, your father has kept her imprisoned." Li Hao, gazing into the courtyard, saw it stripped of its usual vibrancy. The servants were absent, the leaves lifeless and piled at the pond's edge. Though it retained its luxurious form, the courtyard felt more like a prison. Li Xuanli's subtle warning to Li Hao echoed in his mind, suggesting he could take matters into his own hands if he was dissatisfied. Li Hao said little, walking into the courtyard, his steps echoing on the stone path. It was there he saw her, a beautiful woman, silently resting in the pavilion. Li Hao entered the pavilion, his steps light despite the tense atmosphere. The once radiant figure standing before him was now much dimmer, her former brilliance replaced by a simple pearl hairpin. She turned, eyes landing on him with only a flicker of surprise, her gaze steady and calculating. "Has your appearance really changed so much in less than 2 years?" she asked, her tone cool, almost dismissive. Li Hao, his expression calm and not fueled by the hatred one might expect, responded with a smirk. "Your changes are quite noticeable too." As he glanced around, his eyes settled on the fruit platter on the table. Its contents wilted and aging, much like the situation between them. "Now that you've gained fame, are you here for revenge?" he asked. She met his words with a sharp look, but only a slight sneer, her face betraying no fear. "If you're going to kill, then kill. Living here is no different from being dead. The only thing I look forward to is my son surpassing you." She paused, her eyes narrowing as she locked onto him. "And even if I don't see it, I know that day will come." Li Hao's smile widened, but his voice carried an edge. "You truly dare to dream." Li Hao stood motionless, eyes sharp as blades, facing Lu Yuerong's taunts without flinching. She scoffed, "You think you're special? Just like your Uncle Ju shone bright, burned out fast." Her sneer deepened. "You're strong now, but who says you won't fall just as quick?" Li Hao's voice came low and cold. "Maybe I will, but before that, your son might just suffer an unfortunate accident." Her face twisted, shock and rage flashing as she snapped, "What are you implying?" But Li Hao, unnervingly calm, answered, "I'm not here to end you. When I walked away from the Li family, I let go of that grudge. Oddly enough, I even owe you." She froze, stunned by the shift, as Li Hao's presence loomed not for revenge, but for something far deeper. Li Hao's words rang through the room, his voice cold yet firm. "That divine blood might be a great help to ordinary people, but to me, it's insignificant." His eyes locked with Lu Yuerong's as he continued, "You once claimed that a parent's love for their child is long-term, that you'd do anything for them. Well, as repayment, I'll make sure you witness the fall of your son at my hands." The venom in his tone was unmistakable, and Lu Yuerong's face twisted with shock and fury. "How dare you!" She spat, rising from her seat. "Do you really think you can escape the law? My son is with the Buddha Lord. He will stop you." Li Hao smirked, his words dripping with sarcasm. "And will your son remain at the Buddha Lord's side forever, clinging to him like a shadow?" His mocking smile only deepened her dread. Lu Yuerong trembled, realizing the young man before her was far beyond the reach of even the Buddha Lord. I was wrong! Just kill me now! Let me atone for my sins!" Desperation overwhelmed her as she knelt before him, her hands pressing against the floor in a frantic plea. Li Hao remained silent, offering her neither mercy nor reply, before the poison took hold. He had genuinely admired this second mother, who had shown him warmth and affection. But that kindness turned out to be nothing more than a well-crafted facade. As days passed, many challenges arose, forcing him to become more cautious and aware of the hidden dangers around him. Death alone won't atone for your sins. Your son harbored ill thoughts toward the true dragon. He must pay for it, was the ominous declaration. Standing tall, Li Hao replied, "You seem too comfortable. You're a prisoner now, so stay in your place. I'll bring your son to you, broken and defeated." Liu Yuerong froze in shock, her face drained of color. Desperate, she tried to cling to his legs but was held back by an unseen force. With urgency, she begged, "I was wrong, but please, for the times I cared for you, save Qianfeng. He knows nothing. If not for him, then for his father." Li Hao's voice was cold as he responded, "You tried to strip me of my power, so now I'll strip your son of his. That's the price." He paused before continuing, "I don't intend to take his life unless he brings it upon himself. But that's a different story." With those final words, he turned and walked away, leaving her in despair. Inside the courtyard, anguished cries echoed, but the young man walked away, his resolve unwavering. As the gate slammed shut, those cries twisted into curses, then dissolved into desperate sobs. Amidst the silence, a thought crossed Lu Yuerong's mind, a letter, a final plea for her son. "Do not leave Mount Wuliang until you have reached the Grand Tao of Peace Realm. Only then will you save your life." Meanwhile, outside, Li Hao emerged, his steps unbothered by the wailing behind him. The onlookers were left confused, unaware of the conversation that had just taken place. He had told Li Xuanli that a criminal should remain where they belong, and with a deep understanding, Li Xuanli was somewhat relieved that Li Hao had spared Lu Yuerong's life, though she was still his brother's wife. The group, now following Li Hao, continued their journey. As they approached the Divine General Mansion, Li Tiangong stepped forward, blocking their path, determined to stop Li Hao. With a mere frown, Li Hao unleashed his Dao Domain, effortlessly pushing past him. From afar, Ji Qingxing called his name, but Li Hao never looked back, walking away and disappearing from view, leaving the crowd in stunned silence. The young man stepped out of the Divine General Mansion once more, but this time, it was for the last time. His departure was not just physical, but marked the end of an era. Li Xiaoran quietly spoke words that carried a heavy weight, meant for only one person to hear. He said, "Birds rest on trees when tired, but he is no bird. He is a phoenix." The words resonated deeply, especially for Li Tiangang and Ji Qingqing, who stood trembling as they understood the true meaning. They had been the cage that kept him, but now, nothing could hold him back. Meanwhile, high on Mount Wuliang, within the Brahma Pure Land world, Li Qianfeng knelt before the spiritual Buddha Master. His heart full of desperation, he earnestly asked, "Master, how much longer until my mother is brought here, our Li family?" His voice trembled with hope, his eyes filled with a silent plea. The Buddha Master, sitting atop the Golden Lotus platform, gazed down, recognizing the hopelessness in his disciples' eyes. With a soft sigh, he realized that his teachings had fallen on deaf ears. "The disaster in Qingzhou City is over. There's no need for concern. As for news about your mother, we must wait for the return of Puji Bodhisattva," he explained quietly. Li Qianfeng, still in disbelief, asked if Qingzhou had really been pacified. The journey to Qingzhou, though vast, would only take a day for someone of their strength. The Buddha Master reassured him, "You can rest easy now." Li Qianfeng, relieved, bowed deeply in gratitude. As his disciple left to cultivate, the Buddha Master turned his attention to Lin Wujing, asking about the stolen saint relic. Lin Wujing reported that despite torturing the thief with the 10-directional karmic fire, the defiant thief remained silent. His association with the fifth saint of the Li family only complicated matters further. In a world filled with deception and ancient powers, the Buddha Lord's cryptic words echo with mystery. The Saint Relic, a treasure left by a saint, holds the key to enlightenment, but may also bring forth unimaginable chaos. If the Li family truly possesses it, their actions could signal a shift in power beyond anyone's comprehension. Yet, the question remains, could the relic be hidden within the very essence of the Demon Star? The fate of the Dayu Divine Dynasty teeters on the edge, as Lin Wujing is tasked with uncovering the truth, confronting demons, and unraveling the dark conspiracy that threatens the land. As secrets unfold and betrayals come to light, the spiritual battle between light and darkness intensifies, forcing warriors to confront their deepest beliefs, their destinies, and the very essence of righteousness. Deep within the dungeon, where the air was thick and suffocating, a prisoner lay bound in chains, his body scarred and battered. His arms and legs were shackled, the heavy iron ball at his feet leaving deep, painful marks on his flesh. Beneath him, the lava pool seethed with fiery serpents, occasionally splashing molten heat onto his body, leaving burns and pits in their wake. Amidst this torment, a figure appeared, bathed in Buddhist light. The largest of the serpents, its scales gleaming like fire, slithered from the pool and spoke with a voice like silk, greeting the figure respectfully. Yet, the prisoner's defiance was unyielding as he mocked his captor, declaring that his efforts were in vain and the coveted item would never be his. Lin Wujing, standing unmoved, coldly reminded the prisoner of the opportunity to repent and be redeemed under the Buddha Lord's mercy, offering a path to absolution and peace. But the prisoner, ever scornful, laughed in the face of salvation, his rebellious spirit undimmed by the chains of the flames. The tension escalates as the figure in chains laughs, mocking the ideals of the Buddhist order. With biting words, he exposes the hypocrisy of those who preach detachment and enlightenment while vying for incense offerings. He accuses them of only pretending to be virtuous, all for the sake of wealth and status. Unfazed, Lin Wujing responds with cold disdain, defending the Buddhist order's principles. He speaks of enlightenment, of transcending suffering, and of the true path of salvation. The chained figure sneers in disbelief, dismissing Lin Wujing's words as mere deception. He questions the very nature of righteousness, claiming that everyone understands the world in their own way, and that there is no need for grand sermons or lofty ideals. In a tense exchange, Lin Wujing confronts a chained figure who boldly claims that stealing is simply part of the world's nature. Unfazed, Lin Wujing scoffs at the thief's arrogance, criticizing his delusions of superiority while engaging in the very act he condemns. The thief, unfazed by the judgment, asserts that the world has always been divided into the successful and the fallen, and he embraces his role as an outlaw. He challenges the world's judgment, dismissing the notion of right and wrong, while Lin Wujing, sensing the thief's complete fall from redemption, warns that only reincarnation could save him. The thief's laughter dies down when he hears of a potential threat to his associates, yet Lin Wujing dismisses it, claiming no one from the Li family is present to care for him. The chained figure in the dark, damp cell lifts his head, a faint smile forming on his lips as Lin Wujing taunts him. The words sting, yet the figure remains unmoved, knowing that no matter what Lin says, there's no saving him. The threat of Li Qianfeng, the Buddha Lord's disciple, weighs heavily on the conversation, but the figure isn't concerned. He's heard it all before. Lin Wujing, with all his boasts about power and influence, rages on, convinced that the young, rising star would abandon him to preserve his glorious future. Yet, the chained figure merely chuckles in the face of such arrogance. He doesn't need anyone to come to his rescue. His path is already set. As Lin demands the Saint Relic in exchange for his freedom, the figure's laughter rings out again, leaving only silence to follow. He may be chained, but his spirit is unbroken. After facing a catastrophic demon tide and severing ties with his family, Li Hao finds himself entangled in a web of deceit and power struggles. His trusted mentor, Feng Boping, is imprisoned by the Buddhist sect at Mount Wuliang, and Li Hao, driven by loyalty and fury, confronts the truth behind their betrayal. As he battles through powerful forces and uncovers hidden conspiracies, Li Hao's journey becomes a test of his character. Through explosive confrontations, including an intense battle at the Buddha Hall, he begins to question the true meaning of righteousness, friendship, and justice. Torn between loyalty and the corrupt ideals around him, he faces the temptation of the demonic path, redefining his identity as he prepares for a future filled with uncertain choices. Li Hao, having enjoyed a trip to Qingzhou, fondly recalls moments shared with old friends and reflects on a life well lived, filled with indulgences and quiet goodbyes. Passing a bustling brothel, he notices a plaque he once wrote while intoxicated, the youthful spirit, in his words, bringing a smile to his face. However, as he leaves the city, his journey takes a sudden turn when he notices a humble tea stall along the road. The elderly vendor offers a warm invitation, unaware of the towering figure walking beside Li Hao Candle Flame God, transformed into a young, stern figure. As the travelers sit down for tea, the other patrons instinctively avert their gaze, recognizing the aura of authority around them. Li Hao, ever the curious wanderer, wonders aloud why he's never noticed this stall during his frequent visits to Qingzhou, his question lingering in the air as a subtle sense of mystery unfolds. The tea stall owner chuckled, "Just because you haven't seen it before doesn't mean it won't be here later." When Li Hao asked about the shop's origin, the owner replied, "Only a few days ago. I was in Liangzhou, but my granddaughter wanted to help, so we moved back here." As he spoke, a young woman emerged from behind a stack of bamboo steamers, her delicate figure wrapped in a light blue tunic, evoking the elegance of a summer butterfly. She bent down to search for something, calling out, "Grandpa, I can't find the paper liner." "It's under that basket," he directed. Smiling, he turned to Li Hao, asking, "What would you like to eat, sir? 2 baskets?" Li Hao glanced at the woman, now holding the greased paper, and smiled in return. She caught his gaze and met it with eyes as bright as moonlight, her skin fair and glowing. Her small, delicate features gave her an intelligent and spirited air, and although she seemed to belong to a noble family, her friendly smile and casual demeanor made her feel like someone from next door. Li Hao, locked in a brief exchange of glances, felt an unsettling sensation as if the man before him could see right through him. With a quiet nod, he averted his gaze, sensing that something was off. His earlier encounter with the old tea vendor in Liangzhou had left no traces, but now, in Qingzhou, a subtle shift tugged at him. The more he observed, the more he realized that no matter how he tried, he couldn't detect any energy emanating from the man. It felt as if he were facing a ghost. The same went for the girl standing by. Her clothing, while simple, gave off an aura of quiet elegance. She stood out effortlessly, like a delicate snow lotus among ordinary blooms, her fair skin and poise betraying her humble origins. As Li Hao sipped his tea, he praised the refreshing taste, commenting on its crispness. The old vendor, with a light chuckle, explained that the tea was made from pure spring water, its clarity emphasized in his voice. Li Hao sat at a table, his gaze shifting subtly. The old man near him lacked any sinister aura, and though he was a strange figure, he didn't seem like a villain. Li Hao wasn't one to pry into every odd encounter, after all. Life was too short to analyze every small detail. As the tea vendor returned to his stall, kneading dough, a young girl dressed in aquamarine approached with a lively yet confident walk, taking a seat at his table. With a friendly smile, she said, "Sir, have you heard about the recent monster gathering in Qingzhou City? Were you scared?" Li Hao glanced up and, calmly sipping his tea, replied, "If you're not scared, why should I be?" She chuckled. "We were scared too, but now that the monsters have been dealt with, we feel safe enough to set up our stall." Li Hao raised an eyebrow. "The monsters are gone, and you're setting up shop? Bold move." Grandfather always said, "Fortune is found in danger." In business, you must challenge heaven, earth, and people. The timid will never succeed, she responded with a laugh, undeterred by the danger. At a quiet tea table, a conversation unfolds between a mysterious girl and Li Hao. The girl, with a knowing smile, advises him to always watch the weather and the people around him, both essential elements in any successful endeavor, especially when there's profit to be made. She introduces herself as Xianxia, a name full of meaning, while Li Hao simply nods, choosing to share the alias Haoxian in return. His gaze is sharp, trying to gauge her reaction, aware that beneath every encounter lies something deeper than it seems. Despite the seemingly casual chat, the tension is palpable. as Li Hao remains cautious about the true nature of the people he meets. This moment is but a fleeting instance in a journey where loyalty, friendship, and personal values are tested in the face of overwhelming adversity. Li Hao, with a calm demeanor, reveals something unexpected. He has no last name. When questioned, his response is simple yet profound. Even without a last name, I can still live this life well. To him, his past life is gone, and with it, the name from that world. Born anew, he would carry the name of this world. This revelation causes Xianxia to pause, her smile fading as she reflects on his words. As they share a meal, with the steam rising from freshly served dumplings, Ying eagerly anticipates Li Hao's reaction to her grandfather's cooking. Li Hao, with a smile, assures her that the taste hasn't changed, it's just as good as ever. The moment is a subtle reflection of the simplicity and depth of Li Hao's character, showing that sometimes, even in the midst of challenges, it's the little things that can still feel the same. Li Hao, having enjoyed a hearty meal and a cup of tea, left a few silver coins behind before departing. He was on his way, but there was a lingering presence at the tea stand, a girl who had been quietly observing him. As Li Hao disappeared down the road, the elder at the stand couldn't help but reflect on the young man's remarkable strength and mysterious aura, recognizing the subtle mark of a saint on him. He mused that Li Hao was much like a child. He once knew another powerful figure with a similar name, but perhaps not as extraordinary. The elder and his granddaughter exchanged a look, their thoughts lingering on the future paths of such a unique individual. What strange fate could lie in store for him? The tea stand, once filled with travelers, now stood quiet, as the final remnants of the day began to settle into an eerie calm. Something felt off the aura, and appearance didn't match at all. She raised an eyebrow, intrigued, and mentioned the one from Heavenly Gate Pass. He confirmed it. They had gone there, only to find a fading incarnation. Her eyes glinted with speculation. Same name, same age. Could this be a transformation deeper than rebirth? A change even the soul couldn't hide? The elder at the tea stand pondered, admitting such a feat would be nearly impossible without intervention from someone at the Saint Realm. No known cultivation technique could erase the signature of a divine soul, but she had made up her mind. Despite his caution, she insisted on seeing the truth for herself. The man hadn't acted, perhaps he didn't meddle. Smiling faintly, she reminded him they had gathered the resentment lingering from Qingzhou City. Curiosity was all that remained before their departure. The tea stand elder forced a weary smile, knowing how stubborn the girl could be. Appearances had to be kept, even in odd times. We're not ordinary, but we still need caution. No need to stir trouble. Ying Xiaoxiao chuckled. Perfect then. Since someone's impersonating us in Great Wilderness Heaven, herding ancient Holy Clan heirs, let's borrow their name and have some fun. The elder sighed, a soft grin tugging at his lips, as he glanced at her. Who among the clan's heirs could even match her? With a quiet sweep of his sleeve, the tea stand vanished, and both figures disappeared from the path. Meanwhile, Qingzhou lay in ruined demons, prowled shattered streets, corpses scattered like refuse, blood soaked into rubble, monsters gnawed on the fallen, limbs tossed aside, while a few survivors, merchants, scholars, warriors cowered in the wreckage, helpless prey in a city devoured by chaos. In a city gripped by terror, noble young ladies cowered in fear, their mouths covered to stifle cries, for the demons showed no mercy. Amidst the chaos, a desperate hope lingered. Would the army ever come to their rescue? As demons selected victims, the screams that echoed through the streets were met with cruel indifference. Some, so paralyzed by fear, collapsed lifeless, while others were swiftly torn apart, their gruesome fates leaving only silence in their wake. High above, a fiery figure appeared in the distance, soaring toward the city. As the young man passed, his gaze darkened upon witnessing the devastation below. With no warning, the wind shifted, and dozens of sharp-sword chi tore through the air, striking down the demons one by one. The surviving onlookers could barely comprehend the spectacle until the young man, riding atop a fiery demon, became visible. Screams of terror filled the air, but they too fell silent as sword chi pierced the heads of every remaining demon. In a matter of moments, the city was free from their grasp, leaving only the scattered bodies of the fallen demons behind, some still gnawing on their gruesome feast. Amid the shock, a few cautious martial artists in the shadows waited, their eyes now on the hero who had turned the tide. As the great red flame demon and a young man riding atop it soared across the sky, a wave of realization spread through the city. People could hardly believe their eyes. A savior had arrived. The martial artists, witnessing the fiery figure, shouted in awe, quickly identifying the powerful being as one of the court generals, not a mere demon. The common elders, too, though unable to see clearly, sensed the divine presence above, like a celestial being, and understood that hope had come. Overcome with gratitude, the survivors kneeled, tears flowing as they expressed their thanks. After ensuring the demons were dealt with, Li Hao, with the help of the Candle Flame God, continued his journey, determined to bring relief to more cities still suffering from the demon occupation. The quick recovery of these lost territories would save lives and prevent further harm. However, before heading back to Liangzhou, Li Hao's mind wandered to the cities in distress, including those where the Li family had already intervened. Not long after his departure, two figures appeared in the sky, an old man and a young girl in blue-green attire. As they approached the city, the girl summoned something mysterious from her golden bracelet adorned with 9 bells. A mysterious sound echoed through the air, crisp and tinkling, before dark mists began to rise from all corners of the city. Strange cries, like the tormented screams of souls in agony, surged toward a set of bells tied to a figure's wrist. As the black fog swirled from the ruins, it was soon absorbed and disappeared. The figure, a young warrior, lowered her wrist, her gaze drifting over the devastated cityscape. With a slight shake of her head, she leapt into the air, following an elderly tea vendor. Hours passed, and soon, the distant sounds of galloping horses and war banners signaled the arrival of reinforcements. The Li family army had arrived to quell the chaos, but by the time they entered the city, the demons had already been eradicated. Astonished soldiers questioned locals, learning that a powerful general, riding a great red flame demon, had wiped out the invaders. The soldiers exchanged uncertain glances, recalling the battle they had witnessed. Wasn't that the Haoshan general? The name spread quickly among the survivors, and soon, talks of constructing a golden statue in his honor began, with some even suggesting the building of a temple to honor his strength and victory. Li Hao, riding the mystical candle flame god, had traversed King Zhou in just a day, searching for any trace of demons. After inspecting over a dozen cities with no success, he turned his focus towards Liangzhou. The remaining areas would be cleared by the Li family army. The following morning, as the mist lingered, Li Hao arrived at the border of Liangzhou, and nostalgia struck him as he gazed upon the familiar Dragon Pass Road, a giant dragon-like path flanked by lush greenery. After dismounting and letting the Candle Flame God take human form to avoid alarming the townspeople, Li Hao began his journey along the road. Suddenly, an old man's voice called out, asking if he was headed to Kanga City. Li Hao turned to see a grandfather and his grandson gathering herbs. The old man didn't recognize him as the same person who had warned against traveling the Dragon Pass Road 2 years prior, but Li Hao remembered him well. With a smile, he responded, confirming his destination. Feeling as though time had rewound to a simpler moment, Li Hao walked along Dragon Pass Road, a path that had once been fraught with danger, but now pulsed with new life and prosperity. As he continued, the familiar voice of an elder reached him, reminding him of old times with words filled with warmth and blessings. The elder, smiling, wished him a future as splendid as a tapestry, to which Li Hao responded with his own heartfelt blessing. Their brief exchange, a moment of simple care and kindness, felt like a fleeting yet meaningful connection. As the elder and his grandson walked away, Li Hao's smile lingered, a sign of peace, before he turned and continued his journey. The road had changed over 2 years. What was once desolate now flourished with youth and ambition. The tea stall was gone, replaced by vibrant vendors, yet Li Hao felt at home. His mind wandered to his friends and their paths, Feng, Xianxia, and the little white fox, and the mysteries that awaited him. Soon, he arrived at Kanga City, his heart light but filled with anticipation. Gazing over the city, Li Hao noticed the defensive arrays and banners fluttering in the fierce wind, marking his presence. His focus shifted to the task at hand as he extended his Dao domain over Xian, concealing her aura. Despite the complexity of the Imperial capital's defense, few could detect the subtle presence of the Taiping Tao domain. The death of the previous great celestial master had left his successor without the necessary abilities to carry on his legacy. As Li Hao entered the city, he was struck by how much had changed in just a few months. The streets were neater, vendors more organized, and a rare air of order pervaded, especially for a border city. At the heart of the bustling city stood a quiet, spacious area, home to a modest bamboo-fenced courtyard. Hidden soldiers patrolled the shadows, maintaining vigilance. Li Hao's divine thought swept over the area, landing on a young girl practicing swordplay within the courtyard. A smile touched his lips as he transmitted his voice, announcing, "I'm back." Inside, Xianxia froze mid-swing, her eyes scanning the area in disbelief. Realizing the truth, she rushed out to find the familiar figure waiting near the courtyard entrance. Young master? She stammered, still in shock. The young man before her seemed different, yet the familiar divine thought instantly confirmed it. He was Li Hao. But hadn't they all seen his avatar vanish, with reports of his death spreading like wildfire? Xianxia rubbed her eyes in disbelief. Was she dreaming? She blinked, and then tears filled her eyes as she rushed into his arms. "Young master, you're still alive!" She cried, clinging to him. Surprised at first, Li Hao soon felt a warm rush in his heart as her tears soaked his shoulder. "Silly child, why are you crying?" "I'm back now." Once her emotions settled, he guided her into the courtyard. The celestial masters watching from the shadows were stunned. They had assumed he was just another noble, but now they realized, could this really be the Haoshin general? The news of his death had sent Kangya City into mourning. Yet here he was, alive. The same general who had quelled the chaos in Liangzhou, the unparalleled young prodigy, had returned. After Li Hao entered the courtyard, several anxious celestial masters rushed in, eager to confirm if he was indeed the Haoshin general. Moved by their emotional reaction, Li Hao nodded, signaling his return. The news spread quickly, igniting a commotion throughout Kangya City, with people flocking to the courtyard in excitement. Inside, Li Hao had just finished introducing his companions, the Candle Flame God and Xian, to Xianxia and was catching up on recent events. He learned that his avatar had dissipated, which explained the rumors of his death. Considering the possibility of severe injuries or a severed bloodline, he decided to create a new avatar. However, he realized that his original avatar was limited in strength and had no connection to his current self, making it weak in comparison. Before creating another avatar, Li Hao intended to seek out manuals for Refine the Spirit, an object manipulating qi circulation to enhance his control. His recent advancement to the 7th stage of Control Dao had opened new possibilities for strengthening his Divine Travel Realm and 15 Li Realm, both of which were still far from reaching their limits. Despite mastering the extreme state in multiple realms, Li Hao knew that perfecting these realms would be key before he could consider breaking through to the extreme limit of the 4 stands realm. Li Hao asked, puzzled. Where Feng had gone, he'd been back for some time, yet Feng hadn't shown up. That wasn't like him. Feng always kept his word. The moment Xianxia heard the question, her expression shifted, and after a pause, she quietly said, "Master Feng has left." The answer struck Li Hao like a blow. Left? With something urgent? Where did he go? But she shook her head. Feng had said nothing. Still, she decided to reveal what she had witnessed. When Li Hao had entered the Mo River, Li Tiangang appeared at Heavenly Gate Pass and clashed with the doppelganger. Master Feng had stepped forward to face it, but from that moment on, he vanished, no word, no return. As the truth sank in, Li Hao's expression darkened. Something wasn't right. It was a departure without a single word of farewell. Li Mushu came to inform Xianxia that Master Feng had to leave due to urgent matters and asked her to guard the Heavenly Gate Pass for Li Hao. Though Xianxia only recounted the events, Li Hao, knowing Master Feng's character, could sense the underlying tension. He could almost picture the conflict, the humiliation, and the forced departure that Master Feng had endured. A surge of anger rose within him, but Li Hao quickly noticed something was off. Master Feng, with his extraordinary strength, should have been untouchable by anyone, including Li Tiangang. Even if Li Tiangang were the true dragon of the Li family, Master Feng's abilities far surpassed his. It wasn't strength that had driven him away, it was something more. It had to be words, sharp and cruel. For someone like Master Feng, whose easygoing nature made him unbothered by insults, only deeply hurtful words could have broken him. The realization hit Li Hao like a sharp pain, and his heart burned with fury. his eyes flashing coldly as he asked Ren Xianxian, "Did Master Feng not say goodbye?" Ren Xianxian only nodded in response. Li Hao's mind raced as he tried to make sense of Master Feng's sudden disappearance. The old man, who had always been straightforward, would never have left without a word. Especially with Ren Xianxian, who Master Feng adored, by his side. It didn't add up. Could something have happened that forced the revered master to leave in haste, maybe pushed by someone's harsh words? Perhaps it was a move to sever all ties, cutting off any association with Li Hao to protect his own reputation. The more Li Hao thought about it, the more it seemed likely. After all, there were few threats that could hurt Master Feng, but Li Hao himself might be one of them. And yet, Master Feng knew that his reputation didn't matter to Li Hao at all. "Where did you go, Master Feng?" Li Hao murmured to himself, gazing at the city beyond, lamenting the absence of the one who had once helped build it. "Can we find him?" Ren Xianxian asked softly, her fondness for the elder clear in her voice. She didn't know the full truth of who Master Feng was, but she admired him deeply. His humble, accommodating nature made him a calming presence. Li Hao didn't answer, lost in thought. Master Feng, a master of evasion, had become infamous for slipping through the grasp of authorities time and time again. His incredible agility and cunning had earned him countless wanted posters, some of which he even displayed proudly. He boasted to his companion Li Hao about how poorly the posters captured his true likeness, claiming that the artists were too incompetent to capture his majestic image. Once, he even convinced Li Hao to draw a new one himself, which Feng then took on a mission to replace a wanted poster in a distant city. He mocked the quality of the original art and left his own behind, an act that caused both Li Hao and their friend Li Mushu to silently laugh at the absurdity of the situation. Despite their laughter, those carefree days now felt like distant memories. As Li Hao stood in the courtyard, he couldn't help but wonder whether Feng would ever return to him. There was no force that could find him unless he wished to be found. With that thought, Li Hao decided to use his influence, spreading word of his return to the Heavenly Gate Pass in hopes of coaxing his elusive friend out of hiding. Yet, even as he prepared his drawings, a sense of uncertainty loomed. Would Master Feng respond to the call, or would their paths remain forever apart? Li Hao, reflecting on the time spent searching for his friend, feels a mix of amusement and melancholy. He realizes that if Feng saw the wanted portraits, he would instantly recognize the search was for him. Li Hao then decides to send a trusted general to Yuzhou to seek help from the Xia family in finding Feng and spreading the word, knowing that the young boy was too weak to protect him back then. But now, he won't let Feng suffer any harm. As time passes, Kanga City rejoices in Li Hao's return, celebrating with a grand feast. But the demons of Tianji Palace, ever watchful, catch wind of the festivities, and soon, the whole city is buzzing with news. Meanwhile, outside the Heavenly Gate Pass, the demons, who had previously reclaimed lands cleared by Li Hao, begin to retreat in fear of his return. The mere announcement of his return to Kanga City sends waves of panic throughout their ranks, as they scramble to hide, fearing another sweep by Li Hao. The bird demons tasked with watching the Heavenly Gate Pass are left in a conflicted state, realizing that the boy's return alone has already struck such fear into the hearts of the demons. In just 2 short years, the boy had grown in ways unimaginable, his power and presence shocking everyone who encountered him. His rise was nothing short of extraordinary. When the Xia family heard of his return, Xia Yuan Wu, eager to express their deep gratitude, personally visited him to offer thanks. Back when Yuzhou was on the brink of disaster, Li Hao had left in a rush to aid Qingzhou, and they had never had the chance to properly say goodbye. The Xia family felt the need to express their heartfelt appreciation for his help. Li Hao, ever humble, brushed aside their gratitude, calling it a minor thing and not worth mentioning. However, Xia Yuan Wu, feeling the weight of Li Hao's humility, invited him to visit the Xia family. Initially, they had planned to offer a small token of appreciation, a chicken raised by the family's elder, which was actually a great demon from the 3 immortal realms. But, with Li Hao's mount now being a demon king of the 4 Stands realm, ruler of the Great Void realm, that gift seemed ridiculously insignificant. Li Hao had single-handedly dealt with the gluttonous Valley Master, saving Yuzhou from catastrophe, making any simple gift feel almost insulting. Therefore, Xia Yuan Wu came with an offer of much greater value, one of the demon kings that the elder had raised, a creature that had served the Li family for years, a token of gratitude that Li Hao could personally choose. In a world where a 4-stands realm demon is considered a rare and powerful gift, Xiaoyuan Wu offers one to Li Hao, with the added benefit of a specially crafted blood covenant that would almost guarantee loyalty. However, Li Hao, unfazed by such an offer, declines it with a simple shake of his head. To him, the demon's power holds little value and the blood covenant seems unnecessary. Instead, he suggests leaving the demon with the Xia family, where it would be more useful in protecting their vast territories and engaging in the campaigns that require its strength. Xiaoyuan Wu, perplexed by Li Hao's indifference, struggles with how to show his gratitude properly. It isn't until Li Hao proposes a visit to Lingyuan Pavilion, a place housing invaluable cultivation manuals, that Xiaoyuan Wu finds solace, realizing that this is the true treasure Li Hao seeks. In a world where powerful cultivation techniques define legacies, Li Hao, a masterful cultivator with a strong divine soul, embarks on a journey fraught with both internal and external challenges. The Xia family, known for their deep-rooted traditions, offers him access to their Lingyuan Pavilion, a treasure trove of their cultivation methods. Though the pavilion holds nearly all of their techniques, some remain secret, known only to select family members. Li Hao's goal is not merely to study these methods, but to refine and evolve them, making them even more potent. As he prepares for this opportunity, Xiaoyuan Wu, a family representative, conveys that the final decision rests with the family head. After a brief period, the green light is given, and Li Hao can explore the Lingyuan Pavilion at his will. This moment represents a significant turning point, as it opens the door to new possibilities for Li Hao's growth and understanding of cultivation. Li Hao couldn't help but smile as he saw the Xia family's leader showing such resolve. With a sense of duty, he left behind war banners at Tianmenguan before turning his horse toward the northern frontier. The wind howled across the desolate pass, carrying with it the scent of snow and iron. He knew the road ahead would be fraught with danger, but the flame of loyalty burned bright within his chest. "Let the drums of war sound," he murmured, gripping the hilt of his sword. "For the realm, for the people, we will hold the line." And with that, he vanished into the storm, a lone figure riding toward destiny. For years, a group of formidable adversaries had been a thorn in the side of several divine general mansions. But in one decisive moment, Li Hao eradicated them all, leaving the older generation in stunned silence. As Xia Linglong gazed at him with admiration, a tender smile spread across her face. Her perception of him had shifted after hearing of his legendary feats, like the defeat of the Gluttonous Valley Master and the Old Demon Kings, or his battle against Dragon Absolute God and Feng Ling Xiao. Despite his youth, Li Hao had already reached the peak of Daiyu, a force to be reckoned with. Only the Buddha Lord, known to be the second most powerful being, might challenge him, though the outcome was far from certain. The younger generation, especially those of the Xia family, eagerly awaited his visit, fascinated and respectful. Born into nobility, they revered strength, and Li Hao's remarkable achievements in both cultivation and battle made him an undeniable force. His rise was nothing short of awe-inspiring, as his cultivation speed continued to accelerate, defying expectations. Li Hao, a young prodigy of legendary reputation, has already carved his name into the annals of history, leaving even the most talented among his peers in awe. His feats, such as severing the Gluttonous Valley Master with a single sword, have spread like wildfire, placing him at the pinnacle of the Grand Tao of Peace Realm. But his reputation isn't just about power. His calm and solitary demeanor has earned him respect and admiration from all corners, particularly from the Xia family, where he finds a quiet refuge. Despite the admiration, there's an undeniable gap between him and those still struggling to assert themselves. Within the warm halls of the Xia family, Li Hao seeks a peaceful moment, requesting to visit the secluded Lingyuan Pavilion. He sends word to the elderly Xiaoyuan Wu to look after Ren Xianxia, who, though nervous, is deeply moved by the way Li Hao was treated, never expecting such a grand reception. The bond between them is unspoken, yet profound, as Li Hao continues to carve his path in a world where true strength is as much about who you are inside as what you can do outside. Seeing the girl's discomfort, Xiaoyuan Wu, understanding the importance of his family's reputation, led her to his courtyard to help calm her nerves. Meanwhile, Li Hao arrived at Lingyuan Pavilion. Xia Linglong greeted him with a smile, revealing the pavilion as the heart of her family, a place built by ancestors to foster martial arts for future generations. The goal was to create a new era where martial artists freely cultivated their skills. Li Hao, grasping the importance of this vision, pointed out that to truly usher in a martial arts era, the cultivation techniques must be shared. Xia Linglong, surprised by his insight, smiled and explained that while the family intended to distribute martial skills to common people, the real challenge lay in the demons attacking from outside and the potential for internal strife. With more martial artists, disorder could arise as some individuals, lacking martial virtue, might collude with demons for selfish gain. Li Hao, after a moment's reflection, understood the delicate balance required to protect both the martial world and the dynasty itself. Li Hao stands at a critical crossroads as he confronts both internal and external challenges threatening the stability of the Dayu dynasty. The royal court faces a difficult dilemma: how to control martial artists who could be both a weapon against the demon threat and a potential cause of chaos if left unchecked. The weight of these decisions is not lost on Li Hao, who reflects on the delicate balance between harnessing power and maintaining control. As the complexities of martial law unfold, he finds himself pulled between duty and personal struggle, realizing the difficulty of managing both the potential destruction of demons and the consequences of nurturing too many martial artists. Amidst this turmoil, a quiet promise is made in the Lingyuan Pavilion, a promise that intertwines loyalty, secrecy, and the path forward. As Li Hao steps into the unknown, with swift determination, he flicked through the books one after another, storing them into his panel without hesitation. Initially, he had been selective, only choosing manuals that were worth keeping, but time was no longer on his side. With a battle ahead, he didn't have the luxury of careful evaluation, so he decided to gather everything. The process of storing them caused no harm, aside from taking up name. Despite being in the Grand Tao of Peace Realm, Li Hao was constantly vigilant. The aftermath of his victory in Qingzhou City over the incarnations of the two desolate gods had put him on high alert. While the Dayu Divine Dynasty may seem safe, he knew only a handful could truly challenge him. But those desolate gods were powerful. They had delayed their invasion, using demonic forces to hold back, likely planning to stay in the shadows unless provoked. But now, with their incarnations destroyed, they surely saw him as a threat. Facing their true forms was daunting, so increasing his strength seemed like his best chance for survival. As he continued to collect cultivation manuals, he didn't leave behind the body refining techniques, improving each skill as he absorbed them. The influx of information was overwhelming, but his strength and focus allowed him to process it all. Hundreds, even thousands of manuals filled his mind, each one stored in his panel, further preparing him for the battles to come. Li Hao discovered that most of the techniques he encountered were focused on refining the spirit and controlling objects. There was a shortage of body refining techniques, and skills like swordsmanship, fist techniques, and knife skills were also few and far between. He recalled hearing that each of the 5 Divine General Mansions had its own area of expertise. The Li family studied a variety of techniques, while the Xia family specialized in refining the spirit. The Wang family, known for their eccentric cultivation methods, excelled at cultivating avatars and controlling puppets. Among them, the Xia family's cultivation techniques were considered the strongest, with their divine spirit cultivation skills nearly rivaling those of the imperial family. As Li Hao delved deeper into their techniques, he felt a sense of satisfaction, realizing he had come to the right place. He quickly absorbed multiple divine spirit cultivation manuals, and the energy of his divine soul surged forward. Enveloped in his Tao domain, he isolated himself to focus on his cultivation. His divine soul manifested as a golden war god, burning with flames as it refined itself. Li Hao possessed top-tier soul-refining skills, including one stolen from the royal family, which allowed him to refine his divine soul to an extraordinary level. Now, with his divine soul strengthened, he could effortlessly travel up to 100 li. However, outside of his Tao thoughts and realm advancements, his limit in the divine traveling realm remained 50 li. Li Hao, deep in his cultivation, is pushing the limits of the divine traveling realm. As his divine soul absorbs both lunar and solar energies, it becomes stronger and more refined. His soul-refining skills, fueled by divine fire, transform his soul, turning it into a golden, solid form. This newfound power allows him to break free from his constraints, bursting through the dome of the Tao domain and standing tall in the sky, bathed in sunlight and moonlight. His once ethereal soul now takes on a radiant, golden, true form, a testament to his growing strength. With a sudden surge of power, the divine soul of the protagonist disappeared, slipping through a crack in the fabric of reality. Moments later, it reappeared. Li Hao quickly grasped that he had entered the extreme realm of divine traveling, a state where his soul had gained unimaginable power. Even if his physical form perished, his soul could endure for a long time. It was capable of traversing the very seams of space, reaching places beyond the limits of the Dao Heart realm. Only someone from the Grand Dao of Peace realm could expel it using their Dao domain. The abilities he now wielded were exclusive to the divine traveling realm, making them utterly terrifying. His soul, bathed by the light of the sun and moon, could traverse the vast void, slipping through the cracks of nothingness. Li Hao, recognizing his new power, named this ultimate form of soul travel Primordial Spirit. His soul had transformed, becoming far more than ordinary, and he felt that only a battle of equal strength could truly unlock the full potential of this realm. But even without such a battle, simply being able to move through the void made him nearly invincible beneath the Grand Tao of Peace realm. He realized that had he known this power sooner, using only his soul in battle would have made him nearly untouchable. Yet the journey wasn't over. His primordial spirit continued to grow stronger with every moment of cultivation. Li Hao had long suspected that beyond the extreme realm lay a final frontier, the end realm, a place where true limits were tested. Yet, reaching this peak would be tenfold more challenging than the extreme realm, a trial so arduous that even the most gifted individuals from the ancient clans struggled to attain it. Time passed, and after an extended period, Li Hao's cultivation reached its limit. His primordial spirit, however, had grown beyond measure. Venturing beyond the Lingyuan Pavilion, he raced through mountains and rivers, feeling the power of the sun and moon like never before. The sun, with its concentrated essence, nourished his spirit, while the moonlight, weaker by comparison, did little to match the sun's energy. Li Hao's primordial spirit soared with ease, much faster than his physical body, allowing him to strike at enemies without moving. As he ventured further, however, a chill began to creep over him, signaling the growing distance between his spirit and body. Li Hao felt a strange sensation as his body grew cold, and the world around him seemed to shift, blending between reality and illusion, much like an endless sea. Moving deeper into this strange realm felt perilous, the fear of losing himself lurking. As his primordial spirit returned, he reflected on how the body could not be completely discarded by just the spirit. With the distance between his physical form and the world shortening, he resumed his cultivation, focusing on object-controlled chi circulation, a technique that allowed him to manipulate objects over a 15-light distance. This was the limit for most, but for those with special resources, the Imperial Manipulation Method reached 25 Li, representing a significant leap. That extra 5 Li was more than a mere number. It was the difference between life and death in combat. Li Hao's journey unfolds as he masters incredible control over his abilities, surpassing the limits of the average warrior. With his cultivation reaching new heights, his power now enables him to manipulate objects from over 100 Li away, harnessing the full potential of his primordial spirit. As he continues to refine his skills, he begins to tap into the deeper essence of object control, a technique that, when perfected, is capable of tearing through the very fabric of space itself. Despite the immense progress, Li Hao remains unbound by the traditional cultivation techniques, reflecting his independence and internal transformation. 2 days later, his departure from the Lingyuan Pavilion catches the attention of Xia Linglong, who is left both surprised and contemplative. With the city's reconstruction in motion and the aftermath of recent battles, she wonders if Li Hao's brief stay was a result of his intense focus, memorizing the top cultivation methods without needing further practice. As the story unfolds, Li Hao is poised to confront greater challenges, testing both his strength and the essence of his character. Li Hao wasted no time and immediately left what he was working on to meet with the family head. Upon meeting, they exchanged pleasantries, with Li Hao expressing his gratitude before preparing to leave. The family head, impressed by Li Hao's presence, invited him to take a look at 2 demon kings owned by his family, suggesting they could guard his gate. Li Hao, however, gently refused, noting that the opportunity to see the Lingyuan Pavilion was already a great favor, and that the Demon King should stay with the Xia family to help with their battles. Xia Linglong admired his refusal, recognizing the value of the Demon Kings. As Li Hao prepared to leave Yuzhou, the Xia family gathered to bid him farewell. Before departing, he gifted them 2 chess pieces infused with his power, which could easily slay enemies in the Ultimate Study Realm and severely wound those in the Grand Tao of Peace Realm. Xia Linglong was taken aback by their power and deeply grateful, realizing how much the Xia family stood to gain from such a potent gift, especially in light of the challenges they faced with the troubles in Yuzhou and the looming threat of the Desolate God. After a heroic victory against the Demon Tide, Li Hao's journey takes an unexpected turn. Having broken through his limits in both the Divine Travel and 15 Li realms, he is now at the pinnacle of martial arts, mastering all but the 4 Stands realm. However, upon returning to Heavenly Gate Pass, he senses a dark, unhidden presence, as though an ominous force is lingering in the air. Soldiers hasten to report his return, but Li Hao, undisturbed, heads to his small courtyard. There, seated where he once drank tea, is a disheveled figure, a man bound in broken chains, his eyes calm but full of lethal intent. The reunion with this figure, who exudes the aura of the Ultimate Study Realm, signals that more sinister revelations are on the horizon. Li Hao stood in the courtyard, scanning his surroundings, and felt a slight sense of relief when he realized it had not been damaged. Despite his opponent's sharp gaze, there was something strangely absent, no killing intent. As he approached the man sitting casually on a guest cushion, Li Hao took a sip from the prepared tea. The man, cold-eyed and unbothered by Li Hao's nonchalance, introduced himself as Zhang Liken. The surname struck Li Hao. It belonged to the imperial family. He couldn't help but wonder if this elderly man was a member of the royal bloodline. Yet, despite his noble heritage, the man's attire made him seem less like a prince and more like a beggar. Intrigued, Li Hao asked, "Prince, what business do you have with me?" Zhang Liken, filled with anger, recounted how he had relentlessly chased Li Hao across several locations, Mo River, Yuzhou, Qingzhou, only to find that Li Hao was always one step ahead. He was clearly frustrated by this pursuit, something he had never encountered before. Meanwhile, Li Hao, unaware of his pursuer, simply offered a sheepish smile and awkwardly suggested he would thank the emperor when the time came. Zhang Liken, not interested in a thank you, dismissively explained that it was only expected for someone to be sent to assist him. He also teased Li Hao for his remarkable abilities, pointing out his rise to the Grand Tao of Peace Realm. Li Hao, modest as always, downplayed his achievements, claiming it was merely fate. But Zhang Liken, his frustration momentarily diffused, seemed ready to call things even. He then shifted the conversation, questioning whether Li Hao wielded a sword, to which Li Hao, surprised, nodded in acknowledgement. In a tense moment between 2 martial artists, Zhang Liken challenges Li Hao's swordsmanship after observing his prowess in battle. Without hesitation, Zhang notes that despite Li Hao's refined appearance, his hands don't look like those of a seasoned swordsman. Drawing from his own experience, Zhang recalls mastering sword techniques from a young age, stressing how even with soft hands, he had outshined those with years of hard training. With a sharp intensity, he urges Li Hao to demonstrate the depth of his sword skills. Caught off guard by the sudden surge of killing intent in Jiang's aura, Li Hao questions the prince's intentions. Unfazed, Jiang demands a duel, pushing Li Hao to draw his sword. Despite the challenge, Li Hao calmly asserts his confidence, warning that Jiang would not be able to defeat him. Zhang Liken's words cut through the air, his eyes blazing with an intensity that bordered on madness. "A Dao domain is nothing to me. My sword Dao can shatter them all," he declared. He wasn't boasting. His voice was filled with an unwavering belief, a burning passion for the sword Dao that no one could ignore. Li Hao, taken aback by the force of his words, met his gaze, not with mockery, but with a deep, understanding silence. The fervor in Zhang Liken's eyes wasn't arrogance. It was the unshakable resolve of someone who had devoted their soul to a single purpose. This was more than just a state of mind. It was an obsession, a pursuit of something higher. After a brief pause, Li Hao nodded. "All right, but this isn't the place for a fight. Come with me." Zhang Liken's eagerness flared, his impatience visible, but he restrained himself when Li Hao spoke. "This is my courtyard. Like your sword, it's something I hold dear," Li Hao explained. Still, Zhang Liken's burning desire to begin was hard to contain. He looked around, his eyes flickering with barely contained excitement, but ultimately, he stayed his hand. With a flash, Zhang Liken soared into the sky, leaving Li Hao to follow, his mind still on the intense emotions that clung to him. Soon, they reached a quiet hillside, where Zhang Liken eyed Li Hao's empty hands, asking about his sword. With a casual smile, Li Hao snapped a branch off an old tree, declaring that anything could be a sword. Zhang Liqin laughed, recalling his own past beliefs, but quickly added that a true sword was more than just a tool. It was a symbol, something that could never be replaced by anything else. In a sudden motion, a damaged, pitch-black sword flew into his hand, singing in the air with a fierce, proud tone like a dragon's roar. He challenged Li Hao to display his Dao domain, boasting that no matter what domain it was, his sword could break it effortlessly. With his hair wild and his presence fierce, Zhang Liqin stood there, a sharp and untamed sword, embodying the very essence of rebellion and power. Li Hao, without hesitation, unleashed his Dao domain, an aura of intimidation sweeping through the air, enveloping Zhang Liqin. The pressure was immense, making it impossible to summon any strength, but Zhang Liqin's eyes gleamed with fiery battle intent. Bursting with energy, his body erupted with sword chi, each strand of power forming a sharp, condensed force, intertwining within his meridians. While Li Hao carried a breath of immortal chi, Zhang Liqin, undeterred, drew upon his internal reserves, resisting the Dao domain's influence. With a powerful swing, Zhang Liqin's sword flashed like a silver moon, its brilliance cutting through the air with Dao intent. To Li Hao's surprise, the force behind the strike shattered his Dao domain. A flicker of realization sparked within him, and though he considered reinforcing his domain, he swiftly abandoned the thought. With battle on his mind, he retaliated, unleashing his own sword chi with a flick of his branch. The two forces collided in a resounding boom, and, strengthened by their respective Dao domains, they found themselves locked in a deadlock, neither side gaining an upper hand. With fury in his eyes, Zhang Liqin yelled, "Is this truly your strongest swordsmanship? Not enough!" As the words left his lips, he unleashed a second strike that shattered the Dao domain. The sword gleamed with a brilliance that seemed to come from the heavens, its speed overwhelming. Li Hao, wielding only a dry branch, countered fiercely, but the sword light cut through. Despite his efforts, his branch snapped in two. Realizing the disparity in their swordsmanship, Li Hao understood that without the aid of his Dao domain, he was no match for Zhang Liqin. "Your sword Dao is only half of what a true sword saint achieves," Zhang Liqin remarked, his aura swirling around him as he stood unscathed. His gaze, cold yet tinged with regret, acknowledged, "For your age, it's quite good. Perhaps in 10 years you could challenge me again." Li Hao, accepting the truth, nodded. He knew his comprehension of the sixth stage of Sword Dao was still incomplete, and his swordsmanship had yet to transcend the ordinary. Li Hao, standing firm with unshakable resolve, faced Jiang Lichen, a figure whose comprehension of the Sword Dao reached the 7th or 8th stage. The intensity of their battle was palpable, as Jiang's sword began to approach the threshold of the Dao, but Li Hao wasn't ready to show all his cards just yet. With a glance, he let the dry branch slip from his grasp, signaling a shift in the flow of energy around him. Suddenly, the air thickened with the overwhelming force of 4 layers of Dao domain, encasing the battlefield. Jiang's confident stance faltered, his eyes wide with horror, but he quickly found his excitement rekindled, a bright, searing light erupting from his body as he ascended into the air, ready for the ultimate strike. But in an instant, Li Hao unleashed another layer, trapping him within the Dao domain's 6 layers. Jiang's power, once so fierce, was now smothered by an invisible grip, his movements frozen, his strength devoured by the overwhelming might surrounding him. Li Hao, however, refrained from fully exerting his control, knowing that the Dao's unrestrained power could have obliterated Jiang in an instant. Zhang Lichen's eyes trembled with disbelief as Li Hao slowly withdrew his overwhelming power, his Dao domain fading like mist. Though Zhang's body surged with light, his sword froze mid-swing, his gaze locked on Li Hao in stunned silence. Then, suddenly, he charged forward, eyes blazing. 6-layer Dao domain? That's not your limit, is it? Li Hao responded with a faint shake of the head. Jiang stood stunned, then erupted in laughter, exhilarated. "Good! I thought my sword had reached its peak, but it's far from enough. The day I shatter your Dao domain will be the day I reach enlightenment." That comment stirred something in Li Hao. "Prince, are you familiar with the Dao comprehension realm?" Jiang saw right through the question, chuckling. "You're fishing for answers, huh? Unless the old ancestor of your clan speaks, you won't find that truth in any scroll. Some secrets get buried with their keepers." He leaned in, voice low and certain. The Tao comprehension realm is layered. The first realm is the true man realm. The second, the Tao law realm. That so-called true person from Gandao Palace, still at the first level trying to break past Tao domains and step into the real Tao, where illusion falls away and only truth remains. His eyes sharpened as he continued. But the Tao law realm? That's where it all changes. Laws shape reality. One speaks and the world responds. Wind, rain, even the unseen Tao itself bends to command. Techniques, they're just surface. Tao is the bone. Laws are the flesh. Zhang Liken shared a crucial insight with Li Hao, pointing out that despite all the cultivation manuals and even the supreme techniques, they only skim the surface of the true essence of the Tao. Only by crossing its threshold can one truly understand its depth, wielding immense power with little effort. Li Hao, momentarily taken aback, marveled at the prince's knowledge of the Tao comprehension realm. The mention of Tao law, which allowed one to control laws through mere words, made Li Hao realize why the avatars of the desolate gods were nearly invincible. The Tao power was indestructible, and those in the true man realm, with their bodies forged by Tao power, were less affected by the Tao domain. Zhang Lichen, seeing Li Hao's contemplation, noted his intelligence and potential, advising him to ignore his brother's misguided notions about saving the common folk. According to him, ordinary people were mere stepping stones, expendable in the grand scheme of things. Li Hao stood stunned, struggling to process the words that had just been spoken to him. They came from a prince, but they felt more like the words of a demon. Dying early means they can be reborn earlier, perhaps into a wealthy family. Isn't that better than struggling for 180 years? Maybe it's even a blessing in disguise. The prince's cold tone echoed in his mind, the implications weighing heavily on his thoughts. Furthermore, the waters of Dayu run deeper than you think, the prince continued, his voice a mixture of disdain and hidden power. Even if you don't venture into Yuzhou or Qingzhou, the worst that could happen is the loss of some common folk. But once these demons cross the line, someone will rise to deal with them. His words were sharp, cutting through the air. Though Dayu is declining, it still holds power to intimidate. Do you think the divine formation is just a defense for the people? No, it's far more than that. As he spoke, his eyes gleamed with an unreadable light. With a final sneer, the prince turned and flew back toward the city, leaving Li Hao to follow him silently. The courtyard, where the prince resumed his seat, seemed to suggest that this wasn't a temporary visit, but rather a stay of indefinite nature. Li Hao, filled with questions, couldn't help but ask, "Prince, what did you mean by the divine formation?" His voice was filled with curiosity and confusion. Zhang Liken waved dismissively, muttering that knowing less meant fewer distractions and clearer insight. Li Hao gave a strained smile, knowing the prince wouldn't explain more, and told him bluntly that this border city wasn't a place for lingering. The prince replied coolly he wouldn't leave until he shattered Li Hao's Tao domain. Li Hao sighed inwardly as Zhang Liken turned his sharp gaze to Xianxia and sneered at her sword, leaving her confused and quietly offended. She couldn't understand why someone so revered would show such scorn toward her. Seeing the prince unmoving, Li Hao knew he couldn't drive him off and finally muttered, "Suit yourself, just don't bother me." To which Zhang Liken replied, "You do your thing, I'll do mine," ending the exchange in stony silence as time quietly slipped away. As the soldiers hurriedly filed in and out of the courtyard, reporting their findings, the search for Feng yielded no results. Tianji Tower had also sent back reports, but there were no signs of his whereabouts. Even the mysterious disappearance of Little White Fox added to the uncertainty. Li Hao had requested Tianji Tower's assistance in locating any traces, but their efforts were fruitless. Xianxia explained that Little White Fox had vanished without a trace, initially thought to be off playing, but as night fell, the realization struck, it was gone. Despite extensive searches beyond the city walls, no clues were uncovered, not even signs of a struggle. All trails ended abruptly, leaving only uncertainty. Li Hao, clearly worried, sighed, hoping that the creature hadn't met with harm. Just then, a new voice interrupted his thoughts. Zhang Lichen, who had come to offer support, noticed the commotion and raised an eyebrow at Li Hao. "I noticed something unusual when I came to Mo River. It seemed calm, so I decided to check in. However, as I neared the city, I saw some people fighting in the distance." Li Hao was shaken by the news of a mysterious fight outside the city. His curiosity sparked when he heard about a skilled fighter clashing with someone from the Grand Tao of Peace Realm. Even with remarkable techniques, the stranger stood no chance against such an opponent. Could it have been the person he was looking for? Intrigued, Li Hao pressed for more details, but the information was vague. The battle had taken place about half a month ago, after the confrontation with Li Tiangang. This left Li Hao wondering if Feng had stayed in the shadows, still secretly protecting Kangya City and possibly involved in a different conflict. His mind raced with possibilities, realizing that this could be a crucial clue in the ongoing web of intrigue surrounding him. After a fierce battle at the Grand Tao Peace Realm, the atmosphere was heavy with tension. Li Hao, still in disbelief, pressed for answers, asking about the identity of the figures involved in the conflict. Zhang Liken responded gravely, confirming that it was none other than Demon Luo, an infamous figure shrouded in dark history. The very mention of the name caused Li Hao to pause. Zhang Liken went on to explain how Demon Luo's origins stretched back 800 years, causing chaos across the land, overpowering even the most powerful Buddhist sects. Despite attempts to contain him, Demon Luo's power only grew, culminating in his escape and return as an unstoppable force. His presence signaled yet another round of destruction and bloodshed. The world trembled in fear, for Demon Luo was no ordinary foe. He was the embodiment of destruction, his power unmatched. As the pieces of the puzzle fell into place, Li Hao realized the magnitude of the situation. His journey had just become far more dangerous than he could have ever imagined. The battle shook the heavens and the earth. Though it didn't end Demon Luo's reign, it gave the world a glimpse of the terrifying might of the Buddha Lord. The Tao domain he displayed was 5-layered impressive, but not quite as powerful as the strength Zhang Liken speculated the Buddha Lord might possess now. After 5 centuries, he would surely be even more formidable, perhaps ranking among the strongest in the Grand Tao of Peace Realm. 3 centuries ago, Demon Luo killed a Bodhisattva, which led the Buddha Lord to order a relentless hunt for him across all Buddhist disciples. Since then, Demon Luo has been a shadow, rarely seen but often invoked in rumors, some true, some false. To track him down would be nearly impossible. Even the Yu Divine Dynasty's long search yielded no trace. For such a being, a warrant means nothing. However, there's a rumor that Mount Wuliang has been investigating Demon Luo's whereabouts for years, though Zhang Liken remains skeptical about its usefulness. Li Hao, previously detached from his family's bloodline, faces a deep internal struggle as new threats loom over him. Amidst his personal turmoil, news arrives that Feng Boping, a trusted friend and legendary thief, has been captured by Mount Wuliang, a seemingly virtuous Buddhist sanctuary. They plan to execute him at dawn. As Li Hao processes this, he is struck by the involvement of Demon Luo and begins to suspect a larger conspiracy. Mount Wuliang, once thought to be a place of sanctity, now reveals its sinister true intentions. Determined to free his friend and uncover the truth, Li Hao sets off on a dangerous journey to confront the hidden forces that threaten not only his past, but the very future of the Yu Divine Dynasty. With emotions running high and loyalties tested, he must navigate through a web of deception, battling powerful adversaries and questioning the meaning of justice and righteousness. As the truth unfolds, Li Hao is faced with choices that will define his path, leading him into the heart of conflict and towards an irreversible transformation. As Zhang Liken whispered to himself, a sudden realization struck him, causing a subtle shift in his expression. "So that's how it is," he muttered, the pieces of a complex puzzle finally clicking together. Li Hao, intrigued, pressed him for an explanation, his mind racing with the possible implications of what he was hearing. The idea seemed improbable, yet not entirely impossible, especially when considering the likes of Candleflame God and Miss Yin. Their past connections to strange powers and hidden motives made the unthinkable seem almost plausible. Their eyes locked, an unspoken understanding passing between them as they both recalled a conversation from years ago. Li Hao's mind turned to Feng Boping and the artifact taken from Mount Wuliang during the Buddha Lord's retreat. It was said to be a saint relic, an object so powerful it had been used to suppress the dangerous Mo River. That act, however, had drawn the wrath of the Buddhist sect, which launched a relentless hunt for Feng. Yet despite their efforts, the elusive Feng had remained just beyond their reach, slipping through their fingers like water through a sieve. Li Hao had always believed in the power of loyalty and the strength of his resolve. But now, as he stood witnessing his friend's capture, his heart ached with sorrow. Feng Boping, the wanderer who once thrived on freedom, was caught, exposed by the very ties that had made him vulnerable. From the far reaches of Qingzhou to the strategic Heavenly Gate Pass, every attempt to stay hidden had failed. It was only when the Buddhists intervened that Feng's whereabouts were revealed. Ironically, it was his connection to others that had made him vulnerable. In the past, the loss of his beloved couple had hardened him into an unbreakable stone, but now, it was Li Hao himself who had become the reason for Feng's capture. His presence, the key to unraveling everything. Li Hao could feel the agony in his chest as he thought of Feng's quiet dedication, still watching over Kanga City, fulfilling promises even while knowing the danger he faced. How could such loyalty go unpunished? His voice broke through the silence, steely and determined. Let's go to Mount Wuliang. His ally, Jiang Lichen, eyed him with a mixture of surprise and disbelief, wondering if the newly minted duke truly planned to defy fate and rescue the man he called a friend. At his age, a few more deeds could elevate him to the prestigious ranks, maybe even divine marquis, with lifetimes of recognition ahead. Who wouldn't want that? But Li Hao's eyes were cold, his heart set on something deeper. True friends in life are enough, he declared, mounting the candle flame god. His resolve was clear. When his friend approached, anxiety in her eyes, he softened, whispering, "Wait for me here and focus on your own growth." Zhang Liken, once convinced Li Hao chased fame like the rest, now saw a different side to him. The young man wasn't after a name or glory. Everyone around him fought for status. Yet Li Hao valued something greater. With a laugh, Zhang Liken pledged his support, ready to face the challenges ahead. "This is your battle, not mine," others warned, but Li Hao's choice was made. True friends were more precious than titles. Li Hao's journey was nothing short of extraordinary as he soared through the sky, his steed galloping with power and speed. The force of his movements echoed in the air as he took flight, determined to face the many forces that sought to tear him apart. Behind him, Jiang Liken followed, a figure whose confidence could rival that of the gods themselves. "Who cares for noble blood?" Jiang Liken boasted, his laughter echoing as he swiftly caught up, his steps mysterious and untraceable. They reached the heavens in an instant, and with each passing moment, their destinies intertwined. Yet, Li Hao couldn't shake the feeling that Jiang Liken was different, more unpredictable, more dangerous than anyone he had ever encountered. The Buddhists are closely tied to the imperial family. Li Hao warned, his concern palpable, but Jiang Liken only laughed in return, unbothered by any potential consequences. As the battle loomed, the secrets of Mount Wuliang unfolded before them, and Li Hao's pursuit of justice would test not only his strength, but his very soul. What followed was a journey through betrayal, vengeance, and the revelation of a hidden truth that would forever change the fate of the Dayu Divine Dynasty. Li Hao narrowed his eyes slightly as he heard Jiang Liken's words. The person he was referring to was clearly the Emperor, but there was an underlying tension between the two. Despite this, the Emperor had asked him to help. Li Hao couldn't help but wonder. "Earlier, you said I helped you escape. Did His Majesty ask you to assist me in exchange for your freedom? Were you once imprisoned?" He cast a glance at the chain still binding Jiang Liken's hands. The man laughed heartily, admitting that the Emperor had promised him freedom in exchange for helping Li Hao, and even agreed that once this was over, Jiang could deliver a sword strike upon him. Li Hao, caught off guard, recalled the friendly face of the Emperor, the old man who once played chess under a willow tree, feeling a bittersweet pang. It seemed the Emperor had invested much in him. Shaking off the sentiment, he took a deep breath, urging his steed to move faster. Meanwhile, the news of the Thief Saint's public execution spread like wildfire across the realms. News of the great thief's capture sent ripples through the land. Those once plundered by Feng Boping clapped in satisfaction, while factions tied to Mount Wuliang scrambled toward the mountain, eager to seize the hidden treasures before his execution. In Qingzhou Divine General's mansion, Li Musho sat frozen, blood draining from his face as the shocking news hit Old Feng. His elusive comrade, master of the heaven and earth, traceless skill and divine stealth breathing, had fallen to the hands of the Buddhists. Disbelief twisted into anguish as memories clashed with cruel reality. His fists clenched, eyes shimmering with grief, heart splitting with a silent cry. How could someone like Old Feng be caught? He sat alone for a while, contemplating in silence, before rising and making his way out of the courtyard. His steps led him to the ancestral hall, where he found an old acquaintance sitting alone in front of a chessboard. The two exchanged a look, their eyes filled with a fleeting sorrow, a silent recognition of what had been lost. Once, the presence of a vibrant youth had always been part of their encounters, but that was no longer the case. "Second brother, what brings you here today?" the man asked, forcing a faint smile. With a solemn expression, the other replied, "I've come to seek forgiveness from our ancestors." The words hung heavy in the air. a sign of the deeper struggles at play. As he slowly approached the altar, each step weighed down with significance. He paused at the threshold, but, after a brief hesitation, crossed it. Kneeling before the ancestral tablets, he bowed his head in reverence, his heart carrying the burden of past choices. The stele trembled slightly, but no ancestor manifested. Appearing would exhaust their remaining soul power, reserved only for critical moments. What matters? A commanding voice resonated, belonging to an unknown ancestor. Following the recent battle in Qingzhou City, many ancestors had sacrificed their spirits. Some had vanished, others were now in a dormant state, while only a few strong spirits remained conscious. Li Mushu's face quivered, and finally, he revealed his intent. "You want to leave the Li family?" The ancestor's voice was filled with disbelief. Li Qingzheng, too, was stunned, staring at Li Mushu. "Foolishness! What are you saying?" Another spirit, tall and imposing, emerged, radiating fury. "Isn't it enough with your reckless actions? You've only just begun to lead the Li family, and now you're stirring up trouble again? Should I discipline you in front of our ancestors?" "Father," Li Qingzheng quickly knelt upon seeing the spirit, a rare fear flickering in his eyes. Despite being over 80 years old, Li Mushu still trembled before his father, his respect ingrained deep within him. The voice of anger from above brought him back to a cold, snowy night long ago. There he was, kneeling in the courtyard, hearing his father's harsh reprimands from the hall, while his mother's pleas and his siblings' requests echoed in his ears. His heart had been full of resentment then, but as the years passed, he realized his own faults. One vivid memory remained his elder brother, whom he had envied, sneaking him a bowl of braised meat noodles after their father's scolding. That meal, simple yet unforgettable, was one of the best he had ever had, along with the grilled fish from a lakeside boy and the comforting soup from a girl who cared for him when he was injured. As he thought of the past, his eyes grew heavy with emotion. Bowing low, he pressed his forehead to the ground, the earthy scent filling his senses. "Father, I have to do this," he whispered. "I promised an old friend. I can't let him down." "But he is a thief," the golden spirit retorted, furious. "Haven't you learned enough from your past associations? Weren't you exploited in your youth by those friends, using your name to cause chaos?" In his younger years, he didn't understand the complexities of people's hearts, but things have changed now. He sees that this man, though a thief, is different from others. Unlike others who misuse the name of power for selfish gain, he has never used his status for personal advantage. Yet, despite his actions, others question whether he can truly be good. His nature, being a thief, seems to make him inherently bad, but one character reflects deeply on this. He points out that life is not so simple. There are many paths in the world, and not all righteous people follow the same road. He acknowledges the harsh reality of the world. Some who wear the guise of righteousness commit actions that hurt the common people even more than simple theft. Through it all, he recognizes that the thief, despite his methods, has never harmed others or caused injustice. He follows a set of principles that, while different, are rooted in something deeper, and perhaps even more significant than those who claim righteousness. The struggle within is not only about the thief's actions, but about the meaning of true justice and virtue in a world full of contradictions. In a time of turmoil, the Divine General Mansion has been ravaged by chaos, with demons wreaking havoc. The desolate god, now defeated, is certain to return seeking revenge. Faced with this looming threat, Li Mushu is caught between his duty and his desire to protect those he loves. Bowing his head in sorrow, he wishes to save a friend, but he cannot bring the mansion into further danger. He swears that if calamity befalls the mansion, he will be the first to step forward, the first to fall. His words are heartfelt, but the golden remnant soul, brimming with anger, wants to argue. However, another voice interrupts a gentle and wise voice that tells the remnant soul to let Li Mushu go. It's a reminder that children should not be burdened too much, and that loyalty to a friend is a rare and valuable quality. Li Mushu, moved by these words, presses his forehead deeper into the ground, acknowledging the weight of both his promise and his heart's resolve. Li Mushu stood before the towering golden remnant soul, his teeth clenched in determination. He bowed deeply 3 times, feeling the weight of what was to come. When he lifted his head, he was met with a complex expression, a mix of anger and sorrow, emotions that seem to pierce right through him. Since your grandfather has said so, just go. Don't spout any more nonsense about leaving the Divine General Mansion. Finish your business and come back. If it comes to it, I will put my life on the line to clean up after you. The golden remnant soul said through gritted teeth, the tension in the air palpable. A shiver ran down Li Mushu's spine, but he only nodded solemnly, his heart trembling. Your son will definitely return to atone for his wrongs, he promised, his voice barely a whisper as he bowed once more. He wasted no time, leaving the ancestral hall with a sense of guilt weighing him down, afraid it would slow his steps. As he left, a telepathic message reached him. Second brother, you must come back alive, came the voice of Li Qingzheng, filled with concern. Li Muxu heard it but did not stop. From his heaven and earth space, he took out a black iron mask and placed it on his face. The mask, a divine weapon, concealed his aura, leaving only his bloodshot, moist red eyes exposed. The sadness in those eyes slowly vanished, replaced by a sharp, fierce, killing intent, a dark promise of what was to come. In a moment of deep regret, he found himself questioning why he hadn't stopped that young man from leaving home 2 years ago. He had the chance to confront the injustice then and demand answers, but the ties to the Divine General Mansion had kept him silent. Now, the consequences of his inaction loomed large. Mount Wuliang, a remote frontier at the border of Qingzhou, was more than just a spiritual haven. Its peaks pierced the fog, and Buddhist bells rang in the air, filling the atmosphere with an eerie serenity. Pilgrims from all over the land made their way through stone paths, winding like serpents across the landscape. The mountains, bathed in golden rays from the Buddha's divine light, were as much a place of spiritual peace as they were shrouded in mystery. And now, the once whispered rumors of Mount Wuliang's true nature were drawing more and more people to its peaks, all seeking answers to a story that had only just begun. In the skies above Qingzhou, a fierce, fiery figure soared through the air with a roar, blazing bright in its wake. The fiery presence swiftly entered a land rich with Buddhist teachings, where the towering halls of the Buddhist faith remained strong and untouchable. Despite past demon invasions, this sacred area had remained unscathed, protected by the Buddha Lord, earning the gratitude and reverence of the people. However, trouble loomed on the horizon. As Li Hao and the Candle Flame God approached the outer gate, a powerful divine formation appeared. But with the aid of the Candle Flame God's Dao Domain, they slipped past undetected. Beyond the formation, they found themselves in a vast, cloud-shrouded mountain range, with the imposing spiritual sacred mountain, home to the Buddha Lord, standing tall in the distance. As the Candle Flame God roared toward the mountain, the Buddha Lord, meditating on his lotus platform, suddenly opened his eyes and sensed their arrival. With a serene smile, he calmly instructed, "Our guest has arrived. Go greet them." As the golden wheels turned in his gaze, as the three bodhisattvas chanted their mantra and soared from the spiritual Buddha hall, they felt a powerful force approaching. It was the Candle Flame God. The young man had indeed come as predicted. Despite the initial shock in their eyes, smiles soon replaced the surprise as they realized he had truly come for a thief. Without wasting a moment, the bodhisattvas vanished from the divine mountain, their figures flashing into the distance. Meanwhile, Li Hao, riding on the back of the Candle Flame God, raced toward Spirit Mountain, crossing countless peaks. But his journey was soon interrupted. In a split second, the three bodhisattvas appeared before him, blocking his path. Li Hao's eyes grew cold as he recognized them. These were the mighty bodhisattvas of Mount Wuliang, practitioners of the Four Stands realm. A silent tension hung in the air as Lin Wujing, with a feigned air of ignorance, asked with a slight smile, "And who might you be?" Li Hao stood firm before the bodhisattva, who once backed Li Qianfeng, his voice ice cold as he challenged. "A disaster sweeps Qingzhou right beneath your sacred mountain, and you still pretend not to know me?" Lin Wujing's face shifted, feigning surprise. "So, it's Haoshan General. What brings you to Mount Wuliang?" "To hell with you!" Li Hao snapped, his patience gone. "Drop the act. Where's the Buddha Lord?" The three bodhisattvas stiffened. They hadn't expected this unfiltered fury. Lin Wujing pressed, "Surely you're not here to plead for that thief?" Then warned with narrowed eyes, "You've risen high. General, don't dig your own grave." Li Hao's gaze sharpened. "When you dragged him from Heaven's Gate Pass, you didn't know who he was to me? What, you think you're some grand figure now?" Another bodhisattva cut in coldly. "Watch your mouth. This is sacred ground." "Get lost!" Li Hao growled, unleashing his Dao domain. The force hurled the bodhisattva hundreds of meters back, blood spraying in the air. Updated, saved memory. In the midst of a tense moment, Li Hao's words cut through the air. "When I treat friends, I drink wine, write poetry, and show respect. But when it comes to you, bald donkeys, just hearing your names is enough to make my mouth filthy." The challenge was set. With a cold glare, Li Hao's authority surged, sending a shockwave that made the three men Lin Wujing included stagger. They could feel an overwhelming pressure, as if the very ground beneath them would buckle. Despite knowing this youth was far beyond their strength, the stark realization of their helplessness hit hard. Li Hao wasn't just powerful, he was a force of nature. Wild, untamed, and unforgiving. Without another word, he mounted the candle flame god and charged toward the divine mountain spirit realm. There, the towering supreme Buddhist hall loomed, radiating an air of solemn majesty. But Li Hao's eyes weren't moved by its grandeur. His gaze was steely as he sensed an immense masculine power hidden within. As he approached, 4 protectors rushed forward to block his path, warning him sternly, "This is the holy land of Buddhism. Even if you're a court general, you can't act so recklessly." Li Hao's response was unwavering. "You know who I am? And you still dare stand in my way?" Li Hao's gaze turned as cold as ice as he advanced, his presence powerful enough to force the 4 protectors back, slamming them into the walls of the Supreme Buddhist Hall. Their movements were completely suppressed, as though held by an invisible storm. Without a second glance, he stepped into the Buddhist Hall, his stride sweeping away the fallen leaves. Standing in the doorway, he seemed to block out all the light entering from the outside. Ahead of him, the towering figure of the Buddha Lord, seated upon the purple gold lotus platform, awaited. The 2 locked eyes, one radiating an unspoken calm, the other sharp with the weight of his own anger. "Haoshin General," the Buddha Lord spoke with a soft smile. Li Hao's voice cut through the air, cold and demanding. "I am a duke of the court. Why do you not kneel before me?" The Buddha Lord's smile remained unwavering as he responded. "Although you are a duke, we as practitioners of the Buddhist faith are beyond worldly hierarchies. I was granted the imperial demon-subduing chapter by Emperor Yu centuries ago for my deeds, and in the presence of any court or saint, there is no need for me to bow." Li Hao's eyes narrowed with contempt. "A demon? Subduing chapter, you say? How grand?" he sneered. The Buddha Lord's gaze remained calm as he addressed the Haoshin General, questioning his arrival with a trace of anger, wondering if he had come to clear the name of a certain infamous figure. Li Hao's eyes burned with fury as he defended the individual in question, not as a mere thief, but as the revered thief saint. Unfazed, the Buddha Lord dismissed this claim, asserting that elevating a thief to such a status was an insult to true saints. He warned Li Hao that aligning himself with notorious criminals, no matter his past deeds, would invite disgrace upon him. Li Hao, now seething with righteous anger, confronted the Buddha Lord, exposing their shared past, particularly how the individual in question had been guarding Heaven's Gate Pass for him. He demanded to know whether the current execution was a personal attack on him or if there were darker motives at play. The tension between them escalated as Li Hao's words and presence shook the foundations of this supposed virtuous sanctuary. In a dramatic moment, Li Hao faces the Buddha Lord in a tense standoff. As his words question the Buddha's authority, Lin Wujing and 2 bodhisattvas rush in, shocked by his boldness. Lin Wujing tries to calm the situation, urging Li Hao to show respect for the Buddha's immeasurable deeds. But before he can finish, Li Hao dismisses him with a low, forceful command, stepping forward, unyielding. A powerful pressure bursts from it, sending the 3 bodhisattvas flying and causing them to spit blood. The Buddha Lord's calm demeanor shifts, his gaze cold as he remarks on Li Hao's unexpected alliance with the thief, revealing his disdain. Li Hao's defiance leaves no room for compromise, as tensions rise and the path ahead grows darker. Li Hao, filled with both determination and rage, steps into the heart of the Buddha's temple, demanding the release of his imprisoned friend, Feng Bofeng. The Buddha Lord, surrounded by his loyal disciples, stands unfazed, challenging Li Hao's motives. By advocating for a thief and daring to enter my Buddhist hall, do you honor the trust placed in you by the Emperor? The Buddha Lord taunts. Li Hao, unwavering, retorts, "If I turn a blind eye to my friend's fate, I betray more than just the Emperor's trust. I betray my very soul." Tension mounts as the Buddha Lord dismisses Li Hao's plea, his words cold and dismissive. But Li Hao, undeterred, confronts the hypocrisy of the Buddhist sect, revealing their own dark secrets. Despite threats of retribution and the Buddha Lord's solemn warnings, Li Hao's loyalty to his friend and his pursuit of justice drive him to the brink. The clash between them is not just a battle of wills, but a profound test of character, one that will shatter not only the temple's sacred halls, but also the ideals both sides claim to uphold. Li Hao, enraged by the Buddhist hall's hypocritical stance, boldly confronts the Buddha Lord. He scoffs at the lofty words of virtue, accusing the high-minded figure of neglecting his duty in times of crisis. With sharp words, Li Hao demands answers, questioning why the Buddha Lord was nowhere to be found when two critical provinces fell under attack. The Buddha Lord responds calmly, explaining that his role, stationed high above, is to guard his domain and leave the fate of distant lands to their defenders. But Li Hao, undeterred, calls out the hypocrisy, seeing through the calm facade and recognizing the true intent behind these lofty ideals. Tensions rise, exposing deep rifts between duty, loyalty, and a man's true responsibilities. Words may deceive others, but not one's own heart. Despite possessing the Grand Tao of Peace Realm and being hailed as one of the most powerful beneath the ethereal path, the question remains, could the mighty prevent the onslaught of the demonic forces? With Mount Wuliang at the border of Qingzhou and the Divine General Mansion by their side, the Dragon Gate and the Holy Palace dared to launch a massive strike, breaking through with ease. The Buddha Lord remains calm, dismissing any concerns about Mount Wuliang's intervention. Yet, Li Hao remains skeptical, pointing out that while the desolate god's influence loomed, it was never enough to stop these forces. The Buddha Lord, claiming to have sent warnings to the Li family, tries to excuse his inaction by saying Qingzhou had already fallen, and his messenger had vanished amidst the chaos. But Li Hao isn't fooled. His sharp mind sees through the pretense, accusing the Buddha Lord of exploiting public ignorance, treating him as nothing more than a pawn in a game of larger forces. In this world, even empires are divided by class, and every move, whether by a merchant or a king, has a price. In the midst of a world full of schemes and deception, Li Hao, a young and emotionally driven warrior, faces a profound test of character. The Buddhist sanctuary, Mount Wuliang, presents itself as a place of virtue, but beneath its calm surface lies treachery. Li Hao's trusted friend, Feng Boping, is imprisoned, and as Li Hao embarks on a journey to confront this, he uncovers a darker truth, the sect's hidden ambitions to overthrow the powerful dynasty. With a deep sense of loyalty driving him, Li Hao must navigate the labyrinth of betrayal and hypocrisy. As the battle intensifies, Li Hao's ideals are tested, forcing him to reflect on the true nature of righteousness, justice, and the fine line between virtue and revenge. In his quest for answers, Li Hao challenges both powerful enemies and his own conscience, questioning his identity and the sacrifices he's willing to make for the ones he loves. The ultimate clash becomes a defining moment, reshaping his fate and the very essence of what it means to be a hero. Li Hao stands in the face of the Buddha Lord, a figure of calm yet intense authority. His demand is clear: release Feng Boping now, or he will force his way through, regardless of the consequences. The Buddha Lord ever composed coldly questions if Li Hao is truly prepared to ruin his reputation, aware that the world will judge his actions once word spreads. Beneath the Buddha Lord's calm gaze lies a subtle mockery, a silent recognition of how Li Hao's path might be fulfilling his own hidden agenda. Li Hao's heart, unyielding, cares little for the potential stain on his past achievements. His loyalty to Feng overrides all else. His declaration is firm: let posterity judge, release him. With a sharp warning, he threatens to destroy everything, the Lotus platform, the Buddhist hall, all in pursuit of his friend's freedom. The Buddha Lord, unfazed, nods and calls for the arrival of the monk, Puji Bodhisattva, to present the truth of Li Hao's actions to the onlookers. A Buddhist chant echoes, and a figure vanishes from the scene, setting the stage for an inevitable confrontation. Li Hao's icy resolve hardens as he realizes the deeper plot unfolding before him, his every step now leading toward a conflict that will change everything. The moment Li Hao arrived, his opponent had already anticipated his swift arrival. Despite his speed, nobles were present, suggesting they had been invited even before the news became public. With a confident stance, Li Hao confronted his foe. "You seek to defame me. But what is it that you truly desire? The Buddha Lord, responding with calm poise, remarked that had he known Li Hao's true potential, he would have had a respected figure bring him to their mountain as a disciple. However, Li Hao scoffed at this notion, revealing that it was their sect's hidden plot to assassinate him long ago that forced him to keep his abilities concealed. He bitterly reminded the Buddha Lord of the poison pill sent to a woman when he was barely 2 years old, a calculated move to manipulate her. Accusing the Buddhist sect of trying to have someone inherit the true dragon of the Li family and seize control, Li Hao's gaze grew more cynical the longer he scrutinized the sinister motives of Mount Wuliang. Li Hao, once a promising son of the Li family, faces an unexpected and harsh betrayal. After discovering that his mentor, Feng Boping, has been captured by the deceptive Buddhist sect of Mount Wuliang, Li Hao embarks on a perilous journey to rescue him. As he delves deeper into the secrets of Mount Wuliang, he uncovers a dark conspiracy led by the Buddha Lord, aiming to destabilize the Dayu divine dynasty. With his divine bloodline a target for the sect, Li Hao must confront both external enemies and his own inner turmoil. In a fierce battle, he unleashes his overwhelming power, shattering the Buddhist hall and exposing the true intentions behind the sect's schemes. The confrontation forces Li Hao to confront his morality as he is pushed closer to the demonic path, questioning his very identity and future. Through loyalty, vengeance, and heartbreak, Li Hao's journey becomes a test of strength, character, and the pursuit of justice. Li Hao, disconnected from his Li family heritage, faces a deep internal struggle and external threats after defending Qingzhou City from a devastating demon tide. His journey takes a dark turn when he learns of his mentor Feng Boping's capture by Mount Wuliang, a Buddhist sect with a hidden agenda. What seems like a place of virtue reveals itself as a breeding ground for treachery, as Li Hao uncovers the sect's plans to undermine the Dayu divine dynasty. As he fights his way through a maze of deceit, battling formidable foes, Li Hao's loyalty and resolve are tested. His quest for justice, spurred by the painful betrayal of those close to him, forces him to confront the true meaning of virtue, righteousness, and the cost of loyalty. The explosive confrontations reveal not only the darkness within Mount Wuliang, but also the turmoil within Li Hao himself. As he grapples with the blurred lines between right and wrong, Li Hao's eyes locked with his opponents, their gaze is sharp enough to pierce the heart. As the tensions of Chapter 280 reached their peak, the air grew thick with conspiracy. Are you plotting to use the demon's hands to replace Gantao Palace? He demanded, piecing together the puzzle that had been forming. The invasion of demons into Dayu was no mere coincidence, and the Buddha Lord had been a player behind the scenes, fueling the conflict. The machinations had deepened over time, from a manipulative past involving family betrayal to a now impending threat to the very foundation of the divine dynasty. The Buddha Lord's smirk only deepened, refusing to answer directly, but the true aim was clear: destabilize the Taoist sect and usurp power. The royal religion, Gantao Palace, held the key to the nation's soul, and Mount Wuliang, while pretending neutrality, fought for supremacy in the shadows. The stillness shattered as Ninth Prince Jiang Lycan stormed in, his anger palpable as he confronted the Buddha Lord. "Get out of the way, bald donkey!" he declared, his sword intent crackling in the air. His challenge was clear: to clash first and test their strength. The Buddha Lord's smile faltered, his brow furrowing just slightly. The stage was set, the players in position, and a confrontation was inevitable, as the echoes of battle reverberated through the sacred halls. With fiery anger, a bodhisattva shouted, his face flushed red, demanding to know how someone dared enter the Buddhist hall. Li Hao, being from the Grand Tao of Peace Realm, could suppress them, but this intruder, a madman who had stormed Mount Wuliang, was an insult to Buddhism that hadn't been seen in centuries. The intruder, however, paid no attention. Calmly, he placed his hand on the hilt of his sword, eyes locked on the Buddha Lord, declaring that he had long wanted to face the world's second strongest expert. He had once been unworthy of drawing his sword in the Buddha Lord's presence, but now he was ready. The Buddha Lord warned the Ninth Prince to preserve his dignity, as drawing his sword would create trouble for the Emperor. But the Ninth Prince was resolute, mocking the concerns and stating that only he mattered. The Buddha Lord, aware of the Ninth Prince's unpredictable nature, chose silence. The Ninth Prince taunted him, eager to make a move and provoke the Buddha Lord into action. Li Hao stood there, his mind sharp with focus, waiting for Feng's arrival. He knew better than to act rashly. After all, the enemy had set a trap, preparing for him to make a misstep. Just as he steeled himself for what was to come, his expression shifted suddenly. Without a moment's hesitation, he sprinted out of the Buddhist hall. On Spirit Mountain, a group dressed in opulent brocade and jeweled adornments approached, their chatter filling the air. At the forefront, Lin Wujing dragged a blood-streaked chain, the body of a victim trailing behind, its lifeless form stained and barely clinging to life. The sight struck Li Hao like a thunderclap, leaving him momentarily dazed. With a mocking tone, Lin Wujing called out, "Haoshin General, will you truly pardon this thief?" The group fell silent, their smiles fading as they observed Li Hao, fully aware that if he absolved the thief, the royal court would have their own say. In the midst of intense tension, the young man's presence was undeniable. As he walked forward, the situation quickly escalated into chaos. Without warning, the air was shattered by an explosive surge, and the noble's head was obliterated in an instant. A chain of violent bursts followed, and within moments, a group of once laughing figures was reduced to nothing but a blood-red mist. The remaining witnesses stood frozen, their divine souls fleeing in panic, only to be snuffed out as if crushed by an unseen hand. Among the chaos, one man, his chain still dragging, watched in stunned disbelief, the blood splattering across him, staining his robes. He barely had time to react before his body was torn apart, his soul desperately trying to escape, but it too was crushed in an instant. In a matter of seconds, the scene was eerily silent, save for the figure of an elder standing alone. Two bodhisattvas at the entrance, witnessing the carnage, stared with widened eyes, horror creeping into their expressions as the trembling young man approached them. As the ground beneath trembled with every step, the overwhelming presence of the figure caused the very mountain to feel as though it was sinking. The oppressive aura suffocated those nearby, constricting their breath and making their hearts race as if they would leap from their throats. It was like a monstrous beast from the wilderness passing by, forcing everyone to hold their breath in awe. When Li Hao approached, his voice was a strained whisper, thick with emotion. His once carefree mentor, the legendary thief, now lay broken and mutilated, his body nearly unrecognizable. Tears, stained a deep crimson, streamed down his face as he tried to lift the ruined body of the elder. Despite the devastation, there was a flicker of recognition in the elder's lifeless eyes, and a trembling hand reached out to touch Li Hao's cheek, as if acknowledging him by touch alone. His mouth opened in vain, no longer able to speak, and the only thing it seemed to convey was a silent plea to flee. As Li Hao held the elder, his body marked with wounds that would not heal. The gravity of their situation set in their world was on the brink, and everything they stood for was about to be tested in ways they never imagined. Li Hao's struggle to free his friend and mentor Feng Boping from Mount Wuliang takes a turn into fierce confrontation. With Feng's soul sealed, all connections to the outside world severed, Li Hao's fury grows as he faces unimaginable cruelty. The immense pressure of the moment causes his blood to boil, his voice reduced to a strained rasp, and yet, his resolve remains unshaken. As the candle flame god arrives, Li Hao's only concern is the safety of those he cares for, entrusting Xian to protect the vulnerable. The air around them stills as Li Hao prepares for the battle that will shake the very foundations of the Buddhist hall. What follows is a clash that strikes fear into the hearts of the mighty bodhisattvas as Li Hao unleashes his power against the sanctimonious walls of Mount Wuliang. His actions threaten not just his enemies, but the balance of everything he stands for, leaving a trail of destruction that cannot be undone. Li Hao's hair whipped around him as he unleashed a thunderous roar. "Come out now!" In an instant, his 9-layered Dao domain tore through the void with unimaginable speed, overwhelming everything in its path. Two bodhisattvas stood in its way, but before they could react, another Dao domain erupted from within the Buddha hall, meeting Li Hao's attack head-on. The two forces collided with explosive force, shattering the ground before the Buddha hall but leaving the hall itself intact. The 9-layer Dao domain was held back, only for Li Hao to push forward with the 10th-layer domain, unleashing even greater power. Inside the Lingwan Pavilion, where Li Hao had honed his skills using secret manuals, his Dao domains became more refined and potent. With a thunderous bang, the Buddha hall, which had stood for a millennium, was violently destroyed. As it crumbled, the fog of the spirit realm revealed the Buddha Lord seated on his purple gold lotus platform, a flicker of surprise in his eyes. He calmly remarked, "It seems you have fallen into the demonic path.